Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Exceptional Relationships. I am your host, Jason Safford. I am here with our exceptional coach and my lovely co host, Miss Ronique Clark.
Hi, people.
And we're back from a little R&R and also
Mhm.
birthdays. It was our birthday week.
Yes.
Very exciting time. So,
Hmm.
and today we're going to talk about the importance of stepping back. Ronika, I don't know about you, but I decided for this birthday week to really step back from everything.
Hmm.
And, specifically, I really um, took a step back both from the exposure on social media
Yeah.
as well as just taking time to reflect for myself, both
Hmm.
business wise as well as personal, where I
Yeah.
am, life, who's in my life,
Hmm.
what's going on. I have so many things to be grateful for.
Yep.
And
As as we all, as
yeah, and
we
I
all.
and I think that's an important part of stepping back is really being able to have a chance to appreciate the
Hmm.
gratitude that you have. But
Yep.
I want to get into this conversation today because I think that the challenge is that we live now in a world, in a reality that for a lot of people, they don't appreciate when you step back.
That is
They're
true.
very reactive.
Hmm.
Um,
They're very reactive and not a lot of proactivity. Not a lot of proactivity. All it's what is going on in the world right now is really survival mode. Fight or flight. Everybody is just trying to make it through the day, make it through to the next one, make it through to the next one. If I get through the next 3 months, I'll be fine. If I get through the next 6 months, I'll be fine. If I get through the next year, I'll be fine. And not enough emphasis is being placed on really stepping back and really placing yourself in the now and looking around you and just breathing breathing air into your lungs and just appreciating and acknowledging what is around you. Because for you to have a roof over your head and clothes on your back and able to breathe and able to see and able to smell and able to walk and able to feel and hear and speak, all of those things a lot of us take for granted. But when you but one has to look at oneself and say that I could have been born without eyes. I could have been born without the ability to see. I
mhm.
could have been born without the ability to hear. I could have been born with a disability where I was born with no hands or no feet. You know what I mean? Or I might have been born with something where I would not have been able to speak or sing.
And when we, think about this in terms of relationships, I think one of the things that's really important is finding people, especially your partners, both in business and in life,
Mm-hmm.
that can understand you even when you don't say anything. In other words, when
Yeah.
you take a step back, they're not reactive. They
Yeah.
recognize that
They
you're
recognize
taking a
that.
step back.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, it's unfortunate that so
Mm-hmm.
many people today don't have that ability. So I think one of the things I want to sort of talk about is why have we become so desperate in survival mode? And what if we look at the source,
Yeah.
where this comes from and what's really going on. I mean, you talk about if I can make it through today, if I can make it through the next couple of weeks, about what is really going on inside of us collectively that is causing us to be so reactive rather than proactive, and also not taking the time to really listen and digest what's going on around you.
Because a lot of people are really operating from a place of fear and operating from a place of ignorance as well, where their egos are telling them that they don't need to do this and they don't need to do that and they know everything.
So they're very
But
judgmental.
and the thing about it is we don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. So we have to always acknowledge that there's a time and place for everything. And there is a time to know certain things, yes, and there's also a time to learn. And what you had just mentioned about some people not being able to recognize certain things in people when they want to step back, that comes through learning this person, that comes through learning their mannerisms, that comes through learning what their likes and dislikes are, what they enjoy and they don't enjoy, what makes them sad, what makes them happy, what makes them angry, and really getting down to the nitty gritty of who this person really is, so that when that situation does come around and you see that person stepping back, or you get the vibe that this person is sort of stepping back and trying to take a breath and take some time, they know because you have learned them. So it is always important even when it comes to our friends, our family, our significant others, even our work colleagues, that we take the time to really learn them.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's people we're dealing with. So we have to learn about this person so we know.
All right.
So we know, okay, this person is stepping back.
I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. For relationships that are already struggling, and you could have been with somebody and you broke up and you guys are trying to figure out how to be friends.
Yeah.
And I'm using an extreme here because I want to sort of look at this.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, the difficulty between people when they've come out of a relationship is that there's so many emotions that they're still sort of intertwined with. So if one of them steps back and says, you know what, I really need to take some time for me. How would the other person react? Well, that's too speculative. Let me ask the question a different way. How should the other person understand what's going on, both for themselves and the other person? Because too often there's an emotional reaction to it.
Yeah. And not enough on logic.
Right. And then second of all, because you brought up the fact that we're so caught up in our egos, it just further complicates the communication between people, especially if things are strained between them.
Yeah.
And how do we internalize for ourselves to recognize, okay, maybe this person is stepping back?
Well, first of all, when it comes to these sort of conflicts, one must always bear this in mind. They might not, the objective might not necessarily be to be right. The objective is to be heard. So that being said, since it's not about being right, it's about being heard, we have to listen. We have to be able to listen to what the other person is saying, as well as not saying. Because a lot of things can be said even in terms of body language without a single word coming out of somebody's mouth. So one must look out for that as well. Right? And once you can put certain egos aside and approach it from a place of humility, that is when you are able to really listen to what this person is saying or what this person is not saying. Because ego is going to want to say that you're going to try to always be right. But humility is going to be saying it is not about being right, it's about being heard. So that must always be at the core of it. So when you say, okay, it's not about being right, it's about being heard. Okay, what is this person saying?
And if somebody is stepping back, obviously that means that they're dealing with something that they need to figure out.
Yeah.
It may also be that they don't feel like whatever they're doing is really making an impact or a difference, and they need to figure that out as well. If you are the person, that sees the other one stepping back, why is it so common to internalize it as they're stepping back because of you? In other words, because you just talked about being heard, and it doesn't necessarily have to be verbal communication, but oftentimes now, because we're so reactive, because we're not listening, the actions of other people we internalize as attacks on us and rejections and all sorts of things that may have nothing to do
with it. Yes.
But additional to that is that even if it does, you're not being supportive of the other person retreating to say, hey, wait a second, I need to collect my thought.
Yeah. That's the ego side talking, because the ego is going to always want to be the person on top. It's going to always want to be the overly competitive side of you. That's the ego. When you set the ego aside, tell them to sit down in one place, one part, and try to look at it from a place of humility and also empathy. Because at the end of the day, you have to be looking at this person and saying, okay, let me see if I can walk in this person's shoes. How would I feel? And I think we had discussions many episodes ago, right? So that is one thing we should look at in terms of how is this person feeling? And if I were in that position, how would I feel? If I was in this particular situation, how would I be affected by it? You know what I mean? And that is coming from a place of humility. So we must always keep that in mind. And also, even if certain things are not clear, it is always important to ask, what do you need from me?
What do you need from me? So showing concern when somebody steps back, obviously, is a sign of support. What other ways can we support someone when they're stepping back?
Just send them all the light and love you can. And at least you can just say to them simply, If you need anything, I am here,
Mhm.
and make yourself available.
And I would add to that, because I asked a question, but I'm going to answer it now, that I think that if you share what's going on with you,
Yeah.
that's valuable to the other person. If you say, "Hey, listen, I know you're stepping back. I just want to, let you know what's going on in my life,
Mm-hmm.
and these are the things that are happening, you know, um, I, know that, it may not be something that, you're particularly interested in right now, but I just want to share it with you because you're important to me." And, that at least lets the other person know that even though life is moving on, that you're not
Mm-hmm.
forgetting about them simply because they've stepped back. You're not writing them off because
Yeah.
they've stepped back. They're just, I think what I'm getting at here, and this is one of the challenges, that's important in relationships, is that you're not always on the same page.
That's true. And that is okay.
And that is okay. And the more that you can understand that sometimes before you can even have the tough conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you have to get right yourself.
That's true.
And
That's
then
true.
the tough conversation isn't so tough.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Because you
But
know how to deal with it.
right, but more importantly is that maybe the tough conversation really wasn't the issue in terms of the tough conversation with somebody else. It was really the tough
Mm-hmm.
conversation with yourself,
That's true.
so
That's
that
true.
you could come out of that with more clarity to be able to let everybody else know, hey, this is what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I am. This is where I want to go.
Mm-hmm. That's
And this
true.
is, and this is what I need. And this is what I'm willing to give.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. You're absolutely right.
So, again, looking at the challenge that we have with all the noise that's out there and all the negativity and the
Mm-hmm.
reactiveness, how do we share with each other these types of situations and really opportunities to connect?
Mm. That is the question.
I
Ah,
stumped you on that one, huh?
yes, that is the question.
Yeah.
That is the question for you. How do we answer that one?
Yeah.
How do we?
It's not as easy as just saying, let's have a drink together, right? Because you're really trying to not have a drink
Exactly.
with somebody.
That's true. That's true. You have to just acknowledge. Yeah. Well, to start, you have to just acknowledge certain things first. In order to fix our problem, you have to admit that there is one in it.
Yeah. And oftentimes the problems in relationship aren't problems with each other, they're problems with ourselves.
That is true.
And they're
That
affecting each
that's
other.
that's that's something that's some that well, I shouldn't say some, but all that problems are projected onto the other person.
Hmm.
So we have to deal with it internally first before we are able to think of a solution on the outside.
Does stepping back also initiate fear in the other person because they no longer have a sense of control and a sense of certainty?
For some people,
Hmm.
for some people, the the controlling kind, yes,
Hmm.
you do have those people who have that kind of mentality. But for the other half who just understand certain things, they will respect that person's wishes and let them go through their own process.
Hmm.
I always say to somebody, when people are trying to coax you into something that you do not feel comfortable with, that's a big red flag.
Hmm.
It's a big, big, big red flag because these people are only around to really see what they can get away with. You know what I mean? So don't allow them to have that sort of power over you.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not comfortable with something and you feel as if you need to step back and take some time for yourself, do that. You cannot be able to give from an empty basket. At
Mm-hmm.
some point you need to step back and refill your own basket in order for you to give what's in that basket to others. So there's always that cycle. Once you feel as if your basket is empty, step back, refill,
And
and don't let anybody make you feel bad.
yeah, and I think the other thing, to this is the fact that, again, the energy
Mm-hmm.
that is being lost.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say lost, it's, in other words, when there are challenges between people,
Yeah.
all of that positive energy that was there in the beginning or at some point in the relationship has dissipated. And so now you
Mm-hmm.
have a very low level, very low vibration, very low frequency between two people. And if one
Yeah.
of them says, you know what, this is just not working for me, I have to step back.
Mm-hmm.
Their reason for doing it is obviously exactly as you just said, to recharge themselves and to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what it is that they want and where they want to go and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not saying anything to the other person because it has nothing to do with them.
With them, yes, exactly.
The issue now is that if the other person takes, offense to it, or, reacts in any way that, from a standpoint of ego, that this person is, offending me somehow,
Yeah,
they're missing the opportunity
that is
to
true.
also recharge and to also reflect and to also look
Mm-hmm.
at, why are we even in this particular situation? If we had such high level energy before and now
Yeah,
we're here, why are we here?
exactly.
And if it's an individual thing between us, if one person's working on it, then maybe the other person needs to work on it. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that the fear of, that you're just going to disappear and never talk to each other again and go on with your lives
Mm-hmm.
racks most people.
Yep, that's true. That's true. That's a fear of rejection. That's the fear of starting over. That is the fear of re-revealing yourself to somebody and going back through the process of getting to know you, and all of those stages that comes with building a bond,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I know even I have been guilty of it a couple of times, but just because I know I've been guilty of it, I have to I know I have to step back and really evaluate myself periodically, so I don't fall into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
Because people come in and out of your life for a reason. And the important thing is to appreciate them while they're around you and take the lessons, taking lessons that they're trying to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether they know it or they don't know it, people are in your life for you to be taught a specific lesson in life. Whether you know it or they know it or neither of you know it. People come in and out of your life for a reason. So while you're in that situation, acknowledge that person's present, be grateful that that person is around, because obviously if there wasn't anything to be learned from this particular person, they wouldn't have been in your orbit in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So take lessons, take the snippets of knowledge that you get while interacting with this person, and when they go, they go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So
appreciate the movement of that energy in and out.
so So what you're saying, as I understand it, is that if we are more open-minded
Hmm.
and growth oriented
Yeah.
in terms of how we receive and give in
Hmm.
our relationships with
Yeah.
people in general, and if we were more accepting
Yeah.
of how not in control, how not certain things are or uncertain things are
Yeah.
with regards to life itself,
Hmm.
the easier it would be for us to enjoy life.
Yep.
Seems simple
Enjoy the
enough to
now. Enjoy
do.
the present.
Yeah, it seems
Yes.
simple enough to do,
Yes.
but
Don't get caught up.
we
Don't
get
get
caught up all the time.
don't get caught up in the past because the past is history. The past done gone. Don't get caught up in the future because the future is promised to no man, and we don't know what the future is.
Right.
We don't know. All we can all we can really focus on is what is in the present and what is around us today.
But you
What
you
are
want to
our
be able to make plans and have dreams. I mean, that's one of the big things.
Yeah.
But
Yes, but the thing about it is at the end of the day, yes, you might have John Lennon. Life is what happens while you're making other plans, right?
yeah. Hmm.
Yep. And even the Bible, it always said that the fact that the Almighty has a bigger plan for you than you have for yourself.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know what I mean? So yes, you might have your plans, but at the end of the day, we are all headed towards a specific destiny in life. And we might have this specific plan for our lives, but we find that it might not go according to what we have planned because there's something greater planned. So yes, be cognizant of the no. Leave the past alone. The past is gone. The future isn't here yet, so we don't need to worry about it.
Hmm.
focus on Focus on the no. And focus on the no means really taking stock of what is around you and being grateful that you are in the situation that you're in. It might seem bad, but take this is what I would say. You difficulties around you is just one floor, right? Once you take the escalator up to another floor, you will have a bird's eye view of what is going on. And what is going on is preparing you. It's all think of it this way. Everything that happens to you is all in preparation. So when you see certain situations happen to you and you notice it, as instead of feeling upset or sad about it, think of it this way. This is preparing me. There is a lesson to be learned. What is a lesson? What is a lesson? And as long as you are aware of that, trust me, you see a lot of things that people might be worrying about, they're not going to worry about anymore.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Have to always express gratitude.
Yeah. And I think, for our listeners, it's so important to really understand and appreciate that stepping back is healthy. It
Yes.
also allows you to appreciate gratitude in a way that you
Yes.
don't get to do every day, because when
Mm-hmm.
you express gratitude every day, it becomes mundane. It becomes,
Yep.
you know,
Not
uh,
necessarily.
well, I say that from it becomes mechanical, and it's something where, um, no matter what it is you do, when you get into a routine of doing things on a consistent basis,
Yeah.
the difficulty is that it loses a little bit of value simply because of the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing in relationships. When you do the same thing every day for someone, the consistency they appreciate, but it also becomes routine. It becomes
Yeah.
something where they lose gratitude for it simply
Yeah, that's
because
true.
they get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes when you take a step back, it's also to appreciate for yourself what you've done.
Yep. And
But
just the overall picture.
right, but also to revitalize that gratitude.
Yep,
The
that's true.
fact that I have the opportunity to do this, I think that, it's important for me to express to you the gratitude that I have that we get to do this show. And just the last 2 weeks of us not being on the air while we did
Mm-hmm.
other things, it was an incredibly powerful time to, reflect, but also to miss you.
Yeah, you miss me.
So,
Aww.
I think it's important for our listeners to know that so that they know the dynamic between us and how, how much we think about these things and talk about them so that when
Mm-hmm.
we do this show that, we really come across authentically.
Yep, that's true.
So, all right. Any last, since I've now, poured my guts out here for you. Any last
Aww.
words for our listeners before we wrap this one?
Oh my goodness. Well, just don't worry about the past. Don't worry about the future. The future is what it is whenever it comes. And don't worry about the past, but the past is history. Think of now, the present, and the present is a gift. So
Yep.
let us cherish that part, cherish that gift, and give thanks for that gift because that is all we have.
Yeah.
All we have is the present.
Yeah.
And if if all we have is the present, we ensure every one of us that we make the present as special as it could possibly be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Our life is short. So let us stay humble, stay in a place of love and gratitude and humility and awareness for self and for others.
And I'd like to add on to that, that staying in gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that whether or not you're in the moment or you're stepping back, that the energy of love is
Yes.
what you should be focused on all the time. Because as
Yep,
you
that's true.
just said it, life is short.
Mm-hmm.
Don't waste your energy on negative things. Use your
Mm-hmm.
energy positively. Share your love with the world
Yep. And share your love with yourself.
and with yourself. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This has been another awesome episode. Ronique, as always, I'm so grateful for you and to our listeners.
I'm grateful for you
Grateful for
too,
you.
man.
All right. Take care. We'll see you next
Take
time.
care.